Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredible world of cell biology and biotechnology. We're talking about the science of harnessing the very building blocks of life to heal our bodies, feed our planet, and, solve some of our absolute biggest challenges. So let's just start with this one powerful idea. Just imagine for a second, what if a single type of cell could become the ultimate repair kit for the human body? What if we could regrow damaged tissue or even cure diseases from the inside out? This right here is the central question that's driving one of the most exciting fields in all of modern medicine. So to understand how any of this is even possible, you have to meet the hero of our story, the stem cell. Think of these as the biological blank slates that make pretty much everything else possible. Okay, so what in the world is a stem cell? Well, think of it as raw material, cellular clay, if you will. It's an undifferentiated cell, which is really just a sciencey way of saying it hasn't decided what it wants to be when it grows up. And that indecision, that's its superpower. It gives it the potential to become anything from a heart cell to a brain cell. They are literally our body's own internal repair crew.
But, not all stem cells are created equal. Early on, in an embryo, we have what are called pluripotent stem cells. These are the ultimate masters of transformation. They can become any of the 220 different cell types in our bodies. As we get older, we still have adult stem cells, hanging out in places like our bone marrow. Now they're a bit more specialized, but they're still incredibly powerful.
And it's pretty amazing when you think about where we find these cells. They're there right at the very beginning of development in an embryo, they're in umbilical cord blood at birth, and they're even within our own adult bodies, just kind of hiding out in bone marrow and fat tissue, waiting to be called into action. Okay, so we know what these cells are, we know where they are, but how do we actually use them? This is where the revolution really kicks off, turning this amazing biological knowledge into real-world medicine. This is biotechnology in action.
The whole process, which is known as regenerative therapy, is kind of like a four-step dance. First, scientists collect the stem cells. Simple enough. Then step 2, they grow millions and millions of them in a lab. Step 3 is the magic part, the transformation, where they use these biochemical signals to coax the cells into becoming a specific type, like neurons for Parkinson's. And finally, these brand new cells are introduced back to the body to replace the old, damaged ones.
And the impact here goes way beyond just replacing entire cells. Biotechnology has also turned microorganisms into these tiny little medicine factories. See, before, life-saving proteins like insulin had to be harvested from animals. Not ideal. Now, we can use genetically modified bacteria to produce pure human insulin. And that same principle gives us treatments for cancer, for anemia, for hemophilia, the list goes on.
A crucial advantage here, a huge one, is safety, especially when we talk about vaccines. Traditional methods often used a weakened or killed version of a virus, which, carried a tiny but very real risk. Biotechnology completely changes the game. Scientists can now produce just the antigen. That's a specific little part of the virus our immune system needs to recognize, without any of the other dangerous stuff. The result? A much, much safer vaccine, with a near zero risk of actually causing an infection. And hey, if that's not futuristic enough for you, get this: edible vaccines. I'm not kidding. Scientists are actually engineering things like potatoes to produce antigens inside the plant itself. The dream? A future where you might get immunity against a disease like cholera just by, eating. It's a concept that could absolutely revolutionize global health. But this incredible power to rewrite biology isn't just for healing our own bodies. Nope. The same principles are being scaled up to tackle these massive global challenges, from the food on our plates to the health of our entire environment. To really get the scale of this, it helps to just look back for a second. Science has totally transformed agriculture, time and time again. The Green Revolution used high-yield crops to save millions from hunger. The white and blue revolutions did the same for dairy and for seafood. Biotechnology really is just the next powerful chapter in this ongoing story. Okay, so let's take a huge problem for farmers: bollworms. These things can completely devastate cotton crops. Now, instead of just spraying tons of pesticides, scientists did something brilliant. They took a gene from a bacterium that produces a natural toxin that is harmful only to these specific pests. They put that gene into the cotton plant, and voila, you have a crop that literally protects itself. And it's not just about protecting the plants, it's also about making them more nutritious for us. Take golden rice. It was developed specifically to fight vitamin A deficiency, which is a major cause of blindness in children around the world. The rice is engineered to produce beta-carotene, that's the building block of vitamin A, right in the grain. It delivers vital nutrition with every single meal.
The applications for the environment are just as mind-blowing. The concept is called bioremediation, which is basically just using life to clean up our own messes. And the cleanup crew is amazing. We've got bacteria that can digest oil spills, we've got ferns that pull arsenic right out of the soil, and even sunflowers that can absorb radioactive elements like uranium. It's nature's own cleanup crew, just supercharged by science.
So far, we've mostly talked about enhancing nature. But what happens when we start making exact copies of things? Or when we go in and directly edit the source code of life itself? This is where the science gets even more advanced. And honestly, where the questions we have to ask become even more profound. Let's just focus on one year for a moment, 1996. This was the year the entire world was introduced to Dolly the sheep, and she was a total game changer. Why? Because she was the first mammal ever to be cloned from an adult cell, proving that the biological clock could, in a very real sense, be turned back. But here's a key thing to understand. Cloning doesn't just mean one thing. What happened with Dolly, that's called reproductive cloning. The goal is to create a whole new organism. But there's also therapeutic cloning, which has a completely different goal. It uses the same technique to create perfectly matched stem cells for a patient, all without ever developing that embryo into a full organism. And this all brings us to what many scientists consider the ultimate goal here, gene therapy. Instead of just replacing a damaged cell, what if you could just fix the faulty gene inside it? That's the idea. This technique aims to treat genetic disorders right at their source. For a disease like PKU, which is caused by a single defect in liver cells, it can mean a permanent cure. This incredible power to read and write our genetic code, it all hinges on one fundamental truth. The DNA sequence of every single person is as unique as their fingerprint. And that uniqueness has become an unbelievably powerful tool for us. We see its power in action all the time, especially in two key areas. First, in forensic science, it allows investigators to link a suspect to a crime scene with incredible, almost unbelievable accuracy. And second, in family matters, it can definitively establish relationships, like paternity, beyond any shadow of a doubt. And so that's where we'll end things. From fixing a single faulty cell to cleaning up an entire ecosystem, biotechnology has given us a level of control over the living world that's frankly unprecedented. The science is moving at a breakneck pace. The crucial question now isn't just about what we can do, but what we should do. The power to rewrite life is here. It's in our hands. And the future we choose to build with it, well, that's up to all of us.